Okay, so this is going to sound absolutely nuts, but bear with me. 3 months ago, I became a freaking meme. And not like the good kind where everyone's laughing with you, the kind where random people on the internet are calling you crazy and making jokes about your mental health. My husband, David, gonna call him that, even though I hate saying my husband now, started filming me when I was having what he called my meltdowns. Like 10-second videos of me crying my eyes out, throwing stuff around, just completely losing it. He'd post them on TikTok and Instagram with captions like, "When she can't find the remote lol," or "Why I need beer after work." The videos blew up. I'm talking millions of views. People making reaction videos, comments saying I'm psycho, that I need therapy, that David should run for the hills. Here's the thing, though, and this is where it gets messed up. Those people commenting didn't see what happened right before he started recording. They didn't see David telling me he's been hooking up with my sister for 8 months. They didn't hear him say our whole marriage was basically a lie, and he was only sticking around because we inherited my grandma's house and he wanted his cut. So yeah, I was losing my mind. But not over a stupid remote. I was breaking down because my whole life just exploded, and my husband thought it was funny enough to film. But here's what David didn't know when he posted those videos everywhere. I'm not as dumb as he thinks I am. Sometimes karma doesn't need your help. It just needs you to get out of the way. This is how my husband basically destroyed his own life trying to embarrass me. And honestly, I'm not even sure I feel bad about it anymore. Update. Holy crap, I wasn't expecting this response. My DMs are flooded and people are asking for more details, so here we go. David and I have been married for 4 years. Met in college, did the whole fairy tale thing, or so I thought. We inherited my grandma's house about 2 years ago. She basically raised me after my parents died when I was 12, and it's worth like $800K. Beautiful old Victorian, completely paid off. David was so excited about it, kept talking about our future and building something together. Should have been my first red flag that he cared more about the house than our actual relationship. My sister Emma started coming around more after we got the house. She'd just gotten divorced and said she needed family support. Her ex-husband had cheated on her and left her with basically nothing. I felt terrible for her. She's my only family left, and we'd always been close growing up. So when she asked if she could stay in our guest room just for a few weeks while I get back on my feet, I said yes, immediately. David seemed fine with it too. Actually, he seemed more than fine with it. That should have been my second red flag, but apparently I'm an idiot. Emma ended up staying for 6 months. And looking back now, I can see all the signs I completely missed. The way they'd stop talking when I walked into a room. How David suddenly started working late 3 times a week. He's an accountant. What emergency accounting is happening at 9 p.m.? The fact that Emma was always doing laundry when I wasn't home, and somehow David's clothes kept ending up in her loads. The weirdest thing was how much they started hanging out together. Like they'd watch movies without me, go grocery shopping together, even went to David's company picnic as each other's +1, because I was sick that day. When I asked about it, they said they were just getting along really well and that I should be happy my husband and sister were friends. I trusted them. Both of them. Emma's literally the only family I have left, and David's supposed to be my life partner. Why would I think they were doing that behind my back? The first video he posted was from about 2 months ago. I'd found some text messages on his phone. Not snooping, he literally asked me to check his notifications while he was driving. They were from Emma. Not like obviously inappropriate, but just weird. Too friendly. Inside jokes I didn't understand. References to things they apparently did together that I had no clue about. One text said, "Thanks for last night. You're so much better than I expected." And another said, "Can't wait for next time. She'll never know, lol." When I asked David about them, he made me feel like I was being completely paranoid and jealous. Said Emma was just grateful for our hospitality, and they were planning a surprise birthday party for me. My birthday was 2 months away, but okay. Then he pulled out his phone and started recording while I was trying to explain how the texts made me feel weird. I wasn't even being that dramatic, just crying a little, because I felt like my husband was making me feel crazy for having normal concerns. He posted it with the caption, "When you try to have a rational conversation with your wife," and it got like 50K views in the first day. The comments were brutal. People saying I was controlling, that David should run, that I was clearly abusive and manipulative. Reading those comments made me feel like maybe I really was overreacting about some innocent texts. The second video was way worse. I'd found a receipt in David's car for expensive lingerie from Victoria's Secret. Size small. I'm a size large and have been since college. When I confronted him about it, he said it was supposed to be a surprise gift for me, and he must have grabbed the wrong size by accident and would return it. But then the next morning, Emma came downstairs wearing a new lacy black top I'd never seen before, the exact same style that was on that receipt. When I pointed this out, both of them acted like I was being completely insane. Emma said she'd bought the top weeks ago, couldn't provide a receipt though, and David said I was looking for problems where none existed. I completely lost it. Started yelling about how I wasn't stupid and something was obviously going on between them. David recorded the whole thing, me screaming, throwing couch pillows, just having a complete meltdown. Posted it with "marriage is wild" as the caption, and people ate it up. The video got 500K views. People making duets, calling me crazy wife, making memes about my face when I was crying. But the third video is the one that really destroyed me and went mega viral. David sat me down one evening and said he had something important to confess. I thought finally he was going to come clean about Emma. My heart was pounding because I was ready to forgive him and work through it if he just told me the truth. Instead, he told me he'd been lying about wanting kids. We'd been trying to get pregnant for over a year, doing ovulation tracking, the whole thing. He said he'd been secretly taking steps to make sure it wouldn't happen because he didn't think I'd be a good mother. Said I was too emotional and mentally unstable, and he was protecting our future children from having a mother like me. I completely shattered, like full ugly crying, hyperventilating, couldn't breathe properly. I kept asking why he married me if he thought I was so terrible, and he just shrugged and said, "People change. I guess I just see you differently now." And he filmed every single second of my breakdown. Had his phone propped up behind a picture frame so I didn't even know. Posted it with, "When your wife can't handle honest communication about your relationship." That video got 3 million views. People made reaction videos. There were memes everywhere. Someone even made a remix of my crying sounds set to music. I couldn't leave the house without people recognizing me and laughing. The comments were the worst part. Thousands of people saying David should leave me, that I needed to be committed, that I was proof women are too emotional to handle marriage. People psychoanalyzing me, diagnosing me with personality disorders, saying my future kids would be better off without me. I felt like my entire world was collapsing, and David was turning my pain into entertainment for strangers. Update 2. Okay, so the support from my last post gave me the courage to dig deeper into what was happening. And what I found is so much worse than I thought. After that third video went viral, I was basically a complete mess. Lost my job because my boss said I was bringing negative attention to the company, and clients were asking not to work with me. Couldn't go to the grocery store without people staring and whispering. David acted all supportive in public, posting about mental health awareness and supporting your spouse, but I could tell he was loving every second of the attention. Emma kept acting like absolutely nothing was happening. Still living in our guest room, still doing her weird flirty thing with David right in front of me. When I tried to talk to her about how inappropriate their relationship looked, she said I was projecting my marriage problems onto her, and that she was just being friendly. I was starting to genuinely think maybe I really was going crazy. Maybe I was seeing things that weren't there. Maybe David was right, and I was just too emotional and paranoid to see reality clearly. Then David made a huge mistake. He left his laptop open when he went to take a shower. He never does that. Usually guards that thing like it contains nuclear codes. But I guess he was getting careless because he thought I was too broken down to be suspicious anymore. I wasn't planning to snoop. I just saw that a voice memo app was running and got curious. Turns out he'd been recording our conversations for weeks. Not just the ones he posted publicly. Literally everything. Our private talks, our fights, me talking to myself when I thought I was alone, even me crying in the bathroom. But here's the part that made my blood run completely cold. There was a recording from the day before the lingerie receipt incident. David and Emma talking in our kitchen while I was at work. Emma, she's getting suspicious about the texts. I think she knows something's up. Don't worry about it. I've got something planned that'll make her look completely unhinged. She won't be able to think straight. Emma, are you sure this is gonna work? What if she figures it out? Trust me, by the time I'm done with her, no one will believe anything she says ever again. She'll look so mentally unstable that even if she does figure out what we're doing, no one will take her seriously. Emma, and you're sure about the legal stuff? David, once I can prove she's mentally unfit, I can get her committed or at least get a divorce where I keep everything. The house, all the inheritance money your grandmother left, everything. She'll be lucky to get supervised visitation with her own life. There was more, but I had to stop listening because I was about to throw up. They weren't just having an affair. They were systematically destroying my mental health and reputation so they could steal my inheritance and have me declared legally incompetent. But wait, it gets worse. I kept listening to more recordings and found out they'd been planning this for months. Every meltdown I'd had was carefully orchestrated. They'd coordinate to trigger me, then David would film it and post it with captions designed to make me look as unstable as possible. The birthday party Emma mentioned in those texts, they were celebrating how well their plan was working. The surprise they couldn't wait for? The next phase of their plan to destroy me. But here's the thing that made me realize just how screwed they actually were. David, being the absolute genius he is, had saved all of these recordings to his cloud storage. The same cloud account I had access to because we'd set it up to share family photos and documents. Every conversation where they planned out my emotional abuse. Every discussion about stealing my inheritance. Every moment where they laughed about how gullible and trusting I was. All of it. Automatically backed up to the cloud, where I could access it anytime I wanted. I spent the next 6 hours downloading everything before he could realize his mistake and delete it. That's when I started planning my own little surprise for them. Update 3. So I had all this evidence of David and Emma's plan to destroy me and steal my inheritance. Hours of recordings, text messages, even some emails I found where they discussed having me committed to a psychiatric facility so David could get power of attorney over my assets. I hired a lawyer with cash I'd been secretly saving. Thank God for my grandmother teaching me to always keep an emergency fund they don't know about. Filed for divorce but didn't serve the papers yet. Wanted to get everything lined up perfectly first. I was planning this huge expose. Gonna post all the recordings online, show everyone who'd called me crazy exactly how I'd been manipulated, completely destroy their reputations the same way they destroyed mine. But then something happened that I absolutely did not see coming. I was setting up my revenge plan when David came home from work early, completely distraught, like ugly crying, shaking, could barely talk. At first I thought maybe he'd found out I knew everything and was trying to get ahead of it with some manipulation. But then he started talking and nothing he said made any sense. I can't do this anymore, he sobbed. Emma's been threatening me, and I'm terrified of what she'll do if I don't keep helping her. Wait, what? What? He told me Emma had photos of him from when he got drunk at her birthday party last year. Compromising photos that would ruin his career and reputation if they got out. She'd been using them to blackmail him into going along with her plan. She said if I didn't help her get you declared incompetent so she could contest your grandmother's will, she'd post the photos everywhere and destroy my life, David cried. I never wanted to hurt you. I was just trying to protect both of us until I could figure out how to stop her. I didn't believe him at first. Thought it was just another manipulation tactic. But then he showed me his phone with all Emma's threatening texts. Messages where she told him exactly what to say to trigger me, when to start recording, how to make me look as unstable as possible. And threats. So many threats about what would happen if he didn't cooperate. But here's where it gets really twisted. I made David show me the compromising photos Emma was using to blackmail him. Turns out they were just pictures of him passed out drunk at a party. Embarrassing, sure, but not exactly career-ending blackmail material. So I started wondering, what was Emma's real leverage over David? That's when I remembered something weird from the recordings. In one of them, Emma had said something like, "Don't worry about those photos, they're not even that bad." But she doesn't know that. Photos of David? Or photos of someone else? I confronted Emma that night while David was at work, told her I knew about the blackmail and demanded to know what she really had on him. She just smiled this creepy smile and said, "Why don't you check the guest room closet?" I'm not kidding when I say I almost threw up when I found what was hidden there. Cameras. Professional-grade surveillance equipment, all pointed at different areas of my house. Emma had been filming me for months, getting dressed, showering, sleeping, crying, having private conversations. Everything. She had hundreds of hours of footage of me in my most private moments, but she wasn't planning to use it to blackmail David. She was planning to leak it online and claim I had posted it myself as part of a mental breakdown. Make it look like I was so desperate for attention and sympathy that I was exploiting myself online. The final piece of her plan to prove I was completely mentally unstable. And David? David had no idea the cameras existed. Emma had been blackmailing him with fake photos while secretly filming me to destroy both of our lives. None of it was real. The affair, David's feelings, even Emma's divorce story, all of it was carefully planned manipulation so she could steal my inheritance and disappear. David wasn't my enemy. He was another victim. And I'd been so focused on hating him that I'd almost let Emma destroy both of us. Update 4. I'm shaking as I write this. What we discovered about Emma is so much worse than just stealing my inheritance. After finding the cameras, David and I called the police immediately. They came and searched the whole house, found 7 cameras total, all streaming live to Emma's laptop, all hidden in places where I'd be most vulnerable: bedroom, bathroom, even one pointed at the kitchen where I'd often take work calls with sensitive information. But when they arrested Emma and searched her apartment, they found something that made all of us sick. She'd been doing this to other people too. Emma had a whole folder on her computer labeled Projects, with subfolders for different women, all sisters or close friends of men with valuable assets, all containing months of secretly recorded footage and detailed plans for psychological manipulation. There were 5 other women she was actively targeting, all dealing with mysterious relationship problems, all being gaslit by partners who were supposedly cheating with Emma, all slowly being driven to public breakdowns that were being filmed and shared online. Emma wasn't just after my inheritance. She was running some kind of sick long-term con where she'd identify women with valuable assets, seduce their partners just enough to create suspicion, then systematically destroy their mental health until they could be declared incompetent or driven to suicide. The detective said it was one of the most elaborate psychological abuse schemes they'd ever seen. But here's the part that really broke me. One of her projects was a woman named Sarah, whose husband had been posting videos of her episodes online for 8 months. Sarah had already been committed to a psychiatric facility, and her husband was in the process of liquidating all her assets for her own good. Emma had been visiting Sarah in the facility, pretending to be a concerned friend, while secretly documenting her deteriorating mental state for her files. Another woman, Jessica, had killed herself 3 weeks ago, left a note saying she couldn't handle being crazy anymore and that her family would be better off without her. Emma had a folder full of Jessica's private moments and a timeline showing exactly how she'd escalated the psychological torture until Jessica couldn't take it anymore. Emma wasn't just a con artist. She was a serial psychological abuser who got off on destroying women's lives. And I was supposed to be next. When they searched deeper into her computer, they found her Phase 2 plans for me. After getting David to have me committed, she was planning to visit me in the facility just like she did with Sarah. Document my mental deterioration, then write a book about living with and trying to help a severely mentally ill family member. She was going to profit from destroying me, just like she'd profited from destroying Jessica and the others. The worst part? Emma had been planning this since before our grandmother even died. She'd found out about the inheritance, researched David's background, engineered her own divorce so she'd have a reason to move in with us. Everything. Our grandmother's death wasn't even natural. Emma had been caring for her in her final weeks, and the medical examiner found traces of substances that could have accelerated her decline. Emma might have killed our grandmother to speed up her timeline. David's been amazing through all of this legal stuff. Turns out when someone's not being blackmailed and psychologically manipulated, they're actually a decent human being. We're doing couples therapy and individual therapy and slowly rebuilding trust. Emma's looking at multiple murder charges, fraud, invasion of privacy, conspiracy, and about 15 other things. Her lawyer tried to claim she was mentally ill herself, but the level of planning and organization in her projects made that impossible to argue. The other women she was targeting are all getting help now. Sarah's being reevaluated and will probably be released soon. Jessica's family is filing wrongful death suits. I keep thinking about how close I came to ending up like Jessica. How if David hadn't broken down and told me the truth, I might have been the next woman to give up and hurt herself rather than deal with being crazy. Emma almost won. She almost destroyed everything and everyone I cared about. But she made one crucial mistake. She underestimated how much David actually loved me, even when he was terrified and being manipulated. If he hadn't found the courage to tell me the truth, this story would have ended very differently. Trial starts next month. I'll update when it's over. Ate it. Thank you all for the support. This has been the hardest thing I've ever been through, but reading your messages helps more than you know. Edit 2. For people asking about the other victims, we've all been put in touch through victim services and are supporting each other through this. It's actually really healing to talk to people who understand exactly what this kind of manipulation feels like. Edit 3. David and I are doing much better. Trust is still being rebuilt, but we're getting there. He's been completely transparent about everything and is doing his own therapy to deal with the guilt and trauma from being manipulated too. Final update. Emma's trial ended last week. She was sentenced to 25 years to life for second-degree murder in our grandmother's death, plus consecutive sentences for fraud, conspiracy, invasion of privacy, and psychological abuse of multiple victims. The judge called it one of the most calculated and cruel schemes of manipulation and abuse he'd seen in 30 years on the bench. But that's not the crazy part. During the trial, Emma's defense team tried to argue that she was the real victim, that she'd been abused as a child and was acting out trauma. They brought in our aunt, Dad's sister, to testify about Emma's difficult childhood. That's when we found out the truth that nobody saw coming. Emma isn't actually my sister. Our aunt testified that Emma was adopted when she was 8 years old, after her birth parents died in a car accident. But what she didn't know until recently was that Emma's birth parents hadn't died in an accident. They'd been murdered by Emma herself. Emma has been a psychopath since childhood. She killed her birth parents when she was 8 by tampering with their car brakes. Made it look like an accident. Got adopted into our family where she spent 10 years studying us, learning our vulnerabilities, planning for the day she could exploit us. She'd been planning to murder me and steal my inheritance since we were teenagers. Every family bonding moment, every time she comforted me when I was sad, every sisterly conversation we'd ever had, all of it was her studying me and planning my destruction. The detective said Emma fits the profile of a textbook psychopath who views other people as objects to be used and discarded. The other women she targeted weren't random. She'd specifically chosen women who reminded her of me in some way. I was always the main target. They were just practice. David broke down completely when he heard this. The guilt of being manipulated into hurting me when Emma had been planning to kill me anyway was almost too much for him to handle. But here's the thing. And this is what I keep telling him in therapy. Emma's manipulation was so sophisticated that even trained psychologists missed it for years. She fooled our entire family, social workers, therapists, everyone. The fact that David found the strength to tell me the truth probably saved my life. We're doing okay now. Really okay, actually. Trauma therapy has helped us both understand that we were victims of someone who spent decades perfecting the art of psychological manipulation. The house feels different now that we know the truth. We're having it blessed by every religious leader we can find and considering selling it, but it's also the last connection I have to my grandmother, my real grandmother who loved me and didn't deserve what Emma did to her. Sarah, one of Emma's other victims, is doing much better and has been released from the facility. Jessica's family found some peace in knowing the truth about what happened to her. The other women Emma was targeting are all getting help and support. I still can't believe that someone I thought was my sister spent 20 years planning to destroy me. But I also can't believe how many people came together to help once the truth came out. David and I are stronger than we've ever been. We're planning to start a foundation to help other victims of psychological abuse and manipulation. Maybe something good can come from all this horror. Emma will never hurt anyone again. And I'm still here, still fighting, still building a life with someone who loves me enough to risk everything to save me. I guess that's all any of us can ask for. Edit, thank you all for following this journey. I know it got dark, but I wanted to share the whole truth about what psychological abuse can look like and how it can come from the people you trust most. Eat it too. Edit 2. For people asking about warning signs, the biggest one is when someone consistently makes you question your own reality and perceptions. If someone you trust is constantly telling you that your normal reactions are crazy or overblown, that's a red flag. Edit 3. David says hi and thanks everyone for the support. He's doing much better and is actually really excited about the foundation we're starting. TLDR, thought my husband was trying to make me look crazy online to steal my inheritance. Found out my sister was actually an adopted psychopath who'd been planning to murder me and steal everything since we were kids. Sometimes the person you trust most is literally a serial killer, and the person you think is your enemy is just another victim trying to survive.